Hi, I'm Dr. Jen Harrison from drjenniferharrison.com, and today I want to take you through an EFT tapping meditation to help to deal with fear. Our bodies are hardwired for a lot of different so-called negative emotions, such as sadness, worry, fear, grief, and anger. And so what's important to understand is that there's actually nothing wrong with experiencing any of these emotions. The key is how they get processed. And I'll talk about that a bit more in a moment. Now, I want to first of all talk about the difference between healthy fear and unhealthy fear. So healthy fear would be if you were on a hiking trail and you come across a grizzly bear or a mama bear with her two cubs, or if you're being approached by a mugger. Being sent into that fight or flight mode or healthy fear is actually great, because that is what's going to help you to live and to survive. That's our built-in safety mechanism to help us to either fight or to flee from the situation and help to get us to safety. So that's a natural, healthy response to that type of situation. So that would be considered to be healthy fear. Now, unhealthy fear is when we get into a state of what if. What if I get a virus? What if my loved one gets sick? What if I lose my job? What if I get the promotion? What if I don't get the promotion? All these different what if scenarios, as opposed to focusing on what is, in terms of what actually is happening right now in this moment in time. And so regardless of whether you're experiencing healthy fear or unhealthy fear, the physiological response that you have in your brain and in your body is actually exactly the same. You're going to have increase in production of adrenaline. It's actually called epinephrine. You'll get an increase in cortisol levels and other stress hormone levels. And in the short term, that's okay. But in the long term, when this is dragged out day after day after day after week after week after week, it's not okay, and it can have negative effects on our body. And when we're in a state of fear that's causing us to be in a constant state of stress, we can actually lose up to 70% of blood flow to a key part of our brain called the frontal cortex. And that's where we do our intellectual thinking. That's where we input and process new information, and that's where we make decisions. So in other words, when you're in a state of fear, whether real or imagined, your body's in survival mode. It's not in rational, practical thinking, good decision-making mode. And so for those of us who use both our intellect and our intuition to make decisions, when you're in a state of fear, both your intellect and your intuition can just go right out the window. So it's important to have good tools like EFT tapping to be able to help us to process fear. Another thing I want to talk about is something called negativity bias. Dr. Rick Hanson is a psychologist, and in his book called Hardwiring Happiness, he talks about this negativity bias that every human being has in their brain. So back in our cave people days, if you had a strong negativity bias, that actually equaled survival. So what I mean by that is that having a negativity bias means that you're constantly looking out for threats. And so back, thousands of years ago when we were all living in caves, if you had a strong negativity bias and that you were always looking out for danger and for possible threats, and you would, take, the extra steps to maybe, avoid going around a bush, or being, close to the jungle, maybe walking out more into the open, so that you would avoid being eaten by a tiger, your chances of survival were actually greater than someone who had more of a la-di-da approach and maybe wasn't as cautious, because those people who weren't as cautious and didn't have as strong a negativity bias tended to get eaten by tigers or bears, and they didn't get a chance to procreate. So literally over thousands of years, the negativity bias has helped people to survive and to get us to where we are today. The problem is that we don't have to worry, the majority of us don't have to worry about grizzly bears or tigers lurking in the bushes. And so nowadays, if you're having a strong negativity bias, if we don't learn how to become aware of it and to manage it in a healthy way, then that can lead to levels of very high levels of stress and fear. The third thing I want to talk about is the traditional Chinese medicine perspective on fear, actually on all of the emotions, or so-called negative emotions, like I talked about before, like sadness, worry, grief, fear, and anger. So from a traditional Chinese medicine perspective, there's nothing wrong with experiencing any of those emotions. It's how they get processed. And so from a traditional Chinese medicine perspective, if fear gets processed in a healthy way, that will actually prompt us to take action. Now that might be part of our actual fight or flight mode in terms of if you come across a grizzly bear in your hiking path, or you're being approached by a mugger in the street, that may prompt us to flee and to go to safety or to get help. And so that would be a healthy way of dealing with that. It may even result in taking like practical action steps to deal with what's triggering us to feel fear in the first place. So if watching the news is making you fearful, you can choose not to watch it. You can choose to obtain the information in a different way, like going online to check news headlines and then deciding which headline you want to check out or which news story you want to check out, and decide which one is going to be the most helpful for you, and limiting your exposure to the news. I've been doing this since the early 2000s very intentionally, because I find the fear, there's a lot of fear-based and fear-mongering that happens in the news. So when you're aware of this negativity bias, as I said, you can take practical action steps in terms of how you want to deal with that. So again, if fear gets processed in an unhealthy way from a traditional Chinese medicine perspective, they would see that as leading to weakness and collapse. So fear can lead to paralyzing us, both intellectually and mentally, as well as physically. So it plays a huge role in weakening our minds, or we talk about being paralyzed by fear, and that can have a huge impact on our intellectual and decision-making processes. And so as like I mentioned before, when we're in a state of fear, we can lose a significant amount of information processing and decision-making capacity because of the stress hormones that are flowing through, and because of the decrease in blood flow to the key part of our brain that's responsible for making good decisions, processing information. Okay, so what can we do about all this? Well, one thing is emotional freedom techniques. I've shared with you in my other videos and on my website. There's a lot of research showing how effective EFT can be in dealing with stress. It's been shown to significantly decrease cortisol levels even after just doing 1 hour of tapping. It's been shown to help boost our immune systems. It's been shown to help to decrease stress and anxiety. So if you're new to EFT, I would invite you to go to my How to Do EFT page on my website, and I'll provide the link to that for you. Okay, so when you're doing EFT, it's important to remember to be as specific as possible. So what I would invite you to do right now is to actually write down a list of everything that you are fearful of right now, everything that you are afraid of, everything that's causing you to feel fear. Make a list. And then what I want you to do is and I want you to physically write that down. And then what I want you to do is I want you to choose the number one thing, make the priority. What's the number one thing that you are really afraid of right now? What's the one thing that's really causing you the most fear? And so, what is that? Are you afraid of getting sick? Are you afraid of getting a virus? Are you afraid of a loved one getting sick? Are you afraid of not getting the promotion at work? Are you afraid of getting the promotion at work and all the extra hours and work that you'll have to do with that? Are you afraid that your business will fail? Are you afraid that your business will succeed and there'll be a whole bunch more pressure to maintain success? Whatever is causing you fear right now, write it down, make a list. And you can pause the video to do that. Once you've made the list, as I said, pick your number one thing that you're most afraid of at the moment. And once you've done that, then what you can do is actually rate the intensity of the fear on a scale of 0 to 10. Remember, that's your SUD rating, or subjective units of distress, and it's rated on a scale of 0 to 10. So rate the intensity of the fear that you have for that one particular thing that is at the top of your list, and write that down. So pause the video, go ahead and do that, and then come on back and join me. Welcome back. Okay, now before we get started, what I also want you to do is I want you to tune into your body to where you're feeling fear. So it could be in your chest, it could be in your head and neck, it could be in your back, it could be in your stomach. Just tune into where you're physically feeling the fear, and tune into that as well. Okay, so once you've done that, let's get started. Now we're going to start, tapping on the side of the hand point. Now remember, you can tap with one hand, the other hand, you can even tap with both hands, which I like to do. So whichever way you want to do it is totally fine. So I'll take you through all the tapping points, and what you can do is you can just echo back to me the different phrases and statements that I'm saying. And so I'm going to be leading you through this, but I'll give you an opportunity to fill in and state specifically aloud for yourself whatever the issue is that is causing you the most fear. All right, let's get started. So tapping on the side of the hand. Even though I am feeling all this fear right now, I'm feeling all this fear about, you can fill in what it is that you're feeling fearful about. And even though my fear is at a level, state what your SUD rating is on a scale of 0 to 10. So even though I'm feeling all this fear, I deeply and completely love and accept myself and how I feel. Even though I'm feeling all this fear about, fill in what it is that you're fearful about. And even though my fear is at a level, put in your SUD rating, even though I'm feeling all this fear in my body, I deeply and completely love and accept myself and how I feel. Okay, top of the head. I am so afraid. Eyebrow point. I am so afraid of. State what you're afraid of. I am feeling all this fear. Under the eye, I'm feeling all this fear in my body. Under the nose, my fear is at a level. State what your SUD rating is. I'm feeling all this fear in my body. Collarbone point, I'm so afraid right now. Under the arm, I'm holding on to all this fear. Top of the head, I'm feeling so afraid right now. Eyebrow point, I'm so afraid of. State what you're afraid of. Side of the eye, I'm so afraid right now. Under the eye, I feel all this fear. Under the nose, I'm feeling all this fear in my body. Chin point, I'm so afraid that. State what you're afraid of. Collarbone point, all this fear. And under the arm, all this fear. Okay, take a nice deep breath in and out. Good. Okay, so check in. How would you rate the intensity of the fear now? So what's your SUD rating? And so if you started at an 8, is it down to a 7 or a 6? Maybe it's down to a 2. if there's still some level of fear, and probably there is, then you would go through another round of tapping. So I'm going to take you through another round of tapping. So we'll start tapping on the side of the hand point. I'm going to tap this way this time. Even though I'm still feeling afraid. I'm still feeling afraid that, state what you're afraid of. And my stress level is at a, my fear level is at a, whatever your SUD rating is. Even though I feel this way, I deeply and completely accept myself and how I feel. Even though I'm still feeling all this fear. I'm so afraid that, state what you're afraid of. And my fear level is at a, state your SUD rating. Even though I still have all this fear, I deeply and completely love and accept myself and how I feel. Top of the head. I still am feeling very afraid. Eyebrow point. I'm still feeling this fear. Side of the eye. I'm still afraid that, state what you're afraid of. Under the eye. I can feel this fear in my body. Under the nose. I'm still feeling this fear. Chin point. I'm still afraid that, state what you're afraid of. All this fear. Under the arm, all this fear that I'm feeling. Top of the head. I'm just so afraid. Eyebrow point. There's just so much fear all around me. Side of the eye. I'm feeling really afraid that, state what you're afraid of. Under the eye. I'm feeling all this fear. Under the nose. I can feel the fear in my body. Chin point. All this fear. Collarbone point. I'm feeling so afraid. And under the arm, all this fear. Okay, and stop and take a nice deep breath in and out. Good. So how would you rate the intensity of the fear now? If you're down to a 1 or a 2, that's great. We'll move on to the positive affirmation round. If your fear level is still at above a 2, then I would invite you to repeat these rounds of tapping a few more times. And it may take a few minutes to do that, depending on what you're feeling afraid of and the intensity of your fears. So sometimes things clear up in just a couple of rounds of tapping. Sometimes you may need to tap for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, half an hour, maybe even longer. So I would invite you to do that. You can just replay this portion of the video up to this point. If your stress level, or fear level I should say, has gone down to a 2 or 0 or a 2 or 1 or even a 0, then follow me along with some positive affirmations that we're going to do right now too. So we don't need to do the tapping on the side of the hand. We'll just start at the top of the head. I am feeling so relieved. Eyebrow point. I feel so much better. Side of the eye. I have so many things to be grateful for. Under the eye. There are so many things in my life that I'm grateful for. Under the nose. There are so many people I appreciate in my life. Feeling grateful and feeling appreciative makes me feel so good. collarbone point. Even though I know it's natural to be afraid sometimes, under the arm, I know that there are positive action steps I can take. Top of the head. There are always positive action steps to take. I can always choose to be in a state of appreciation. I have so many people in my life who I love. Under the eye. I have so many people in my life I appreciate. Under the nose, it's safe to feel safe now. There are many things I'm grateful for. It's okay to feel safe. Under the arm, I feel safe now. Good, and take a nice deep breath in and out. So I hope that this EFT tapping meditation has been helpful for you. You can watch it and repeat it as many times as you need to throughout your day and through the time coming up ahead. And it's really important that you take positive action steps, as we've talked about. Now, if you're finding that your usual tools in terms of doing EFT tapping or other stress management tools that you have just aren't helping, then and you're not able to control the fear that you're experiencing, that you may need to contact an emotional or mental health care provider, and I would encourage you to do that. You may also want to work with a certified EFT practitioner, which I am a certified EFT practitioner, and I do work one-on-one with clients. So you've got a lot of options in terms of self-care. Self-care is very, very powerful, but it's important to recognize when self-care isn't enough and you need to get help from healthcare professionals or from a certified EFT practitioner. So I really encourage you to use EFT and other stress management tools, because it's so important that we use these tools to help us go from our stressed self to our best self.
Now, if you found this video helpful, make sure you like it, share it with a friend who may need it, and subscribe to my channel for more videos like this one. For additional resources to help you go from your stressed self to your best self, head on over to my website, drjenniferharrison.com, and join our Best Self community. It's free to join, and you'll get exclusive member-only access to powerful content. Plus, you'll receive 5 amazing bonuses. Remember, becoming your best self starts with just one step in the right direction. Thanks for watching.